The red light flashed. It was the only thing Ravi could see. The alarm was loud, cutting through the noise of the busy airport terminal. Beep. 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 Ravi stood frozen in his socks. He was holding his belt in one hand and his passport in the other. He looked around. Everyone in the security line was staring at him. The man behind him checked his watch and sighed loudly. Then, a large security officer with a serious face stepped forward. He put on a pair of blue rubber gloves. Snap. Sir, the officer said, his voice deep and commanding. Is this your bag? Ravi nodded. His throat was dry. Please step this way, the officer said. We need to open it. Now. Ravi's heart stopped. He knew exactly what was inside that bag. He knew it looked suspicious. And he knew he didn't have the English words to explain it. But before we find out what is inside Ravi's suitcase. Hello, travelers. Welcome back to the podcast where we learn English through the journey of life. I am your teacher, and today, we are going to a place that makes everyone nervous, the airport. In this episode, you will learn English by listening to the story of Ravi, a young man traveling to the USA for the first time. We are going to navigate the stress of TSA security and the fear of customs and border control. We will focus on understanding instructions, answering questions, and staying calm under pressure. To help you, we are going to learn 3 specific power words that are essential for air travel: prohibited, confiscate, and declaration. Fasten your seatbelts. Let's head to the terminal. Ravi arrived at the airport 3 hours early. He was a careful man. He was traveling from India to New York City for his sister's wedding. It was a happy occasion, but Ravi felt sick with anxiety. He walked into the departure hall. It was a sea of people. There were families crying, business people rushing, and backpackers sleeping on the floor. Ravi looked at the departure board. The yellow letters flickered. New York, JFK on time. He checked his bag, got his boarding pass, and walked toward the sign that said security checkpoint. This was the part he hated the most. Let me set the scene for you. The security area is always stressful. It is loud, hot, and everyone is in a hurry. You feel like cattle being pushed through a gate. Ravi stood in the winding line. As he got closer to the front, the TSA officers started shouting instructions. They spoke incredibly fast. Laptops out. Liquids in a quart-sized bag. Shoes off. Belts off. Empty your pockets. No coins, no keys, no phones. It was a wall of noise. Ravi tried to focus. He grabbed a grey plastic bin. He put his backpack inside. He took out his laptop and put it in a separate bin. He took off his shoes. He felt vulnerable standing there in his socks. To feel vulnerable means to feel exposed or unprotected. Without his shoes and belt, surrounded by strangers, Ravi felt small. He pushed his bins onto the conveyor belt. The bins disappeared into the X-ray machine, a dark tunnel that sees everything. Ravi walked through the metal detector. He held his breath. Silence. No beep. He made it. He let out a long breath. He walked to the other side to collect his things. He saw his shoes come out. He saw his laptop come out. But his backpack did not come out. Instead, the belt stopped. The screener, the person looking at the X-ray monitor, frowned. He squinted his eyes at the screen. He pressed a button and the belt moved backward, then forward again. Bag check on lane 3, the screener shouted. That was Ravi's lane. A tall officer picked up Ravi's backpack. Is this yours? He asked. Yes, Ravi whispered. Is there anything sharp, liquid, or fragile inside? The officer asked. No, Ravi said. But suddenly, he wasn't sure. Did he pack scissors? Did he leave a water bottle? His mind raced. The officer unzipped the bag. He dug his gloved hands deep inside. He pushed aside Ravi's clothes. He pushed aside the book. And then, he pulled out a large, silver object. It was wrapped in aluminum foil. It was heavy. And to the security officer, it looked very dangerous. What is this? The officer asked sternly. Ravi froze. It was a gift for his sister. It was a traditional, heavy brass spice grinder. It was made of solid metal. On the X-ray, it probably looked like a bomb. It is for cooking, Ravi stammered. For spices. The officer looked at Ravi. He looked at the heavy metal object. He unwrapped the foil slowly. He saw the brass. He tapped it with his finger. Clink. Clink. It's a mortar and pestle, the officer said, his face relaxing. Heavy duty. Yes, Ravi said, sweating. For the wedding. The officer swiped the object with a small cloth, and put the cloth into a machine to test for explosives. The machine beeped green. Safe. You're good to go, the officer said, putting the object back. Pack it up. Ravi's hands were shaking as he zipped his bag. He had survived the TSA. But he knew the real test was still coming. He still had to land in America. He still had to face customs. 14 hours later, the plane landed in New York. Ravi was exhausted. His eyes were red. He gathered his things and followed the signs for immigration and customs. He walked down a long hallway. At the end, there was a large room with many booths. Above the booths, lights were flashing. Citizens. Visitors. Visa holders. Ravi walked to the visitors' line. He held his blue form in his hand. This was the customs declaration form. Let's pause here. A customs declaration form is a piece of paper where you must write down what you are bringing into the country. You have to say if you have food, money, or plants. You have to tell the truth. Ravi had checked yes next to the box that said food. He was bringing his grandmother's special spice blend for the wedding. It was a white powder in a plastic bag. He knew how this looked. A white powder. In a plastic bag. Entering the United States. He reached the front of the line. The immigration officer sat in a high booth. He did not smile. He looked at Ravi's passport. He looked at Ravi's face. He looked at the computer screen. What is the purpose of your visit? The officer asked. My sister's wedding, Ravi said clearly. How long will you be staying? 2 weeks. Do you have anything to declare? This was the moment. Ravi handed the blue form to the officer. Yes, sir. I have food. The officer looked at the form. He saw the check mark. He scribbled something on the paper with a red pen. He handed the passport back to Ravi. Go to Station B, the officer said, pointing to a separate area. Agricultural check. Ravi's heart sank. He wasn't free yet. Station B was where they searched the bags. Station B was where they threw things away. He walked to Station B. A different officer took his bag. Food, the officer asked. Spices, Ravi said. Homemade. The officer opened the suitcase. He found the plastic bag. It was filled with a fine, pale powder. It was garlic powder, salt, and dried onion. But it looked exactly like something prohibited. Ravi is in trouble at Station B. The white powder looks very suspicious. Before we see what happens next, let's look at the 3 power words that define this scary situation. Word number 1, prohibited. This means not allowed. If an item is prohibited, you cannot bring it on the plane or into the country. Weapons are prohibited. Certain fruits and meats are prohibited. Example sentence: water bottles larger than 100 milliliters are prohibited through security. Word number 2, confiscate. This is a scary word. It means to take something away with authority. If the security officer takes your scissors or your water bottle, they confiscate it. You usually do not get it back. Example sentence: the customs officer had to confiscate the apples because they could carry insects. Word number 3, declaration. This is a formal statement. In an airport, a customs declaration is when you officially tell the government what you have in your bag. If you lie on your declaration, you can get a fine. Example sentence: I made a declaration that I was carrying $5,000 in cash. Okay. Ravi has made his declaration. Now he is afraid the officer will confiscate his grandmother's spices, because they look like a prohibited drug. Let's go back to Station B. The agricultural officer held up the bag of white powder. He squeezed it. He looked at Ravi. What is this exactly? The officer asked. It is the mix, Ravi said. He tried to remember the words. Garlic. Onion. Salt. For cooking. The officer looked skeptical. It's not labeled, the officer said. We usually require an ingredients label. Ravi felt tears stinging his eyes. This spice blend was the most important part of the wedding gift. It was his grandmother's recipe. She was too old to travel, so this was her way of being at the wedding. If they confiscated it, his sister would be heartbroken. Please, Ravi said, his voice shaking. It is from my grandmother. She made it. It is for the wedding meal. The officer looked at Ravi. He saw the honest fear in Ravi's eyes. I need to test it, the officer said. He opened the bag. A strong smell drifted up. It smelled pungent, savory, and delicious. It smelled like garlic and roasted onions. The officer sniffed the air. He paused. The smell reminded him of something. Maybe his own family's cooking. Then, the officer took a small knife and poked the powder. He wasn't testing for drugs anymore, he was looking for insects. He looked closely. It was clean. It was dry. No meat products in here, the officer asked. No bouillon. No chicken powder. No, sir, Ravi said. Vegetarian. Only spices. The officer stood there for a long moment. He looked at the bag. He looked at the trash can where he threw away prohibited items. Then, he looked at Ravi. Grandma's recipe, the officer asked. Yes, Ravi nodded. The officer sealed the bag. He pushed it back into Ravi's suitcase. Keep it sealed until you get to the kitchen, the officer said. And tell Grandma she has a good nose. That smells great. Ravi couldn't believe it. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you so much. Welcome to New York, the officer said, waving him through. Ravi grabbed his bag. He walked through the automatic glass doors. Suddenly, the quiet tension of the customs hall was gone. He was in the arrivals hall. It was bright and loud. He saw hundreds of people holding signs and balloons. And there, right in the front, was his sister. She was waving her arms. Ravi ran to her. They hugged. He was safe. He was in America. And safe inside his bag was the heavy brass grinder and the precious spice mix. He looked back at the glass doors of the customs area. He realized that the officers weren't trying to be mean. They were just doing a job. And he realized that telling the truth, making an honest declaration, was the only thing that saved him. He took a deep breath of the New York air. It smelled like coffee and exhaust fumes. But to Ravi, it smelled like freedom. Ravi made it. He survived the anxiety of the airport. He learned that while airports are stressful, preparation and honesty are your best weapons. The moral of the story is this: fear comes from the unknown. When you know the rules and tell the truth, you have nothing to fear. Now, I have a question for you. I want to hear your travel horror stories. Have you ever had something confiscated by airport security? Was it water, shampoo, or something stranger? Tell me your story in the comments below. If you want to travel the world with confidence and speak English fluently, please click subscribe and listen to this episode next. We are going to explore hotel English, how to check in and ask for a room with a view. Thank you for listening. Keep your liquids under 100 milliliters, declare your spices, and I'll see you in the next story.